when England declared war on Germany. On Sunday, September 3, 1939, many of us in Malta were shocked but not surprised by the news. This was the Prime Minister Chamberlain's speech on Radio BBC.
This is London. You will now hear a statement by the Prime Minister.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British Ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
The 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment was created early in 1941, under the wartime command of Colonel Edgar Salomone. The regiment originated from the Light Anti-Aircraft Battery, formed in the spring of 1940. At that time, the battery was known as the Dockyard Battery. The 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment also included the 10th Light Anti-Aircraft Battery and the 22nd Light Anti-Aircraft Battery. Colonel Salomone commanded the 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment from the day of its formation in 1941 up to its disbandment in 1945. The regiment was composed, in the main, of regular and volunteer soldiers who had grown during 4 hectic years into a closely knit, happy band of efficient and brave gunners. Those men had lived together on the gun site. They had withstood prolonged bombardments together. They had manned the toughest Bofors positions around the Grand Harbour and on Manuel Island, around the airfields of Lucca, Halfar and Talcali. They had seen their comrades die in action. They had seen their homes reduced to rubble by enemy bombs. Those men had learnt the lessons of life the hard way and fast. George Pasha Balzan enlisted in the army in 1941, aged 17, and was originally posted to the 8th Searchlight Battery, but was transferred to the 22nd Battery of the 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment. A poignant incident which George Pasha Balzan recalls was the day in July 1943, when the gun detachment crew, of which he formed part, at the Halfar runway. The sergeant, the number 1 of the gun, was on leave that day, and George Pasha Balzan was acting in his stead. As 2 German fighter bombers suddenly flew low overhead, the gun detachment opened fire, and George vividly recalls seeing the fuselage of the lead aircraft hit 5 times, causing the aircraft to veer right, and crash in a field some 300 yards away. Breaking all regulations, most of the detachment ran to the crash site to collect souvenirs. They were met by a heartbreaking scene. The pilot was clearly dead, but the navigator behind him was alive, and desperately trying to open the jammed cover of the burning aircraft before it explodes, and it was dreadful to see the man scorched to death. That is war. When war started to recede from Malta in 1944, the regiment was put into suspended animation. In 1952, the British Ministry of Defence decided to resuscitate the 3rd Regiment as a territorial army unit. On June 14, 1966, the 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment and the 11th Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment were amalgamated into one regiment, which became the 311 Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, Royal Malta Artillery T. The regiment was formally disbanded on March 31, 1972, in a parade held in the main courtyard of Fort St. Elmo, Valletta, Malta. Thus, the 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment came to an end, after 31 years of illustrious service.